Welcome to a play-by-play review. I'm your host Henry, and going to do some more football recaps here. And right now it's Friday, though. I think by the time I finish this episode, it will no longer be Friday. It will probably be Saturday at that point. But yeah, I'll do the AFC South here to get 7 of 8 done. Almost there. Basically get it done right before the draft starts, which would be nice. So yeah, we'll start right away with the AFC South and the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be specific. And again, I'm going to say I'm going to try and get through this quickly, and then I will not get through this quickly. But yeah. So this was the Jags were coming off of a really bad season, 4-13. It was Doug Peterson's season. He got fired, I think. I think it was at the end of the season. Might have been during, but I think it was after. But they were 4-13, had the second overall, or no, they had the 5th overall pick actually, which is crazy that a 4-13 record got you only 5th pick. There's some real bad teams in 2024, and so obviously no Doug Peterson. The Jags went with Liam Cohen, who was the offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay. Before that, he was actually the offense coordinator at Kentucky, which is interesting. Though in 2022, he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams. Interesting. So he goes 2018 to 2020, he's the Rams. Then he goes to Kentucky for a year. Then he goes back to the Rams, then back to Kentucky, and then over to Tampa Bay. And then got hired by Jacksonville as their new head coach. And it was interesting during the hiring cycle where it was like initially Jacksonville was like, they weren't going to get Liam Cohen, and then they were, but then Cohen was like going to back out of it because like they still had Trent Baalke, who was their GM at that point, and Liam Cohen didn't like Trent Baalke because Trent Baalke was terrible at his job. But then Shad Khan fired Trent Baalke, which was a good thing, and so it was after that it was like, oh yeah, I'll come in now. So yeah, they hired James Gladstone as their new general manager, and he was a longtime managerial guy for the Los Angeles Rams. Had been there since 2016 in various different positions. So he was basically there. I guess 2016 would have been Jeff Fisher era, but it was mostly during the Sean McVay era. So it was a much better. Much better GM hire than Trent Baalke, that's for sure. But it was significantly better. And the head coach hire was also much better. Very good situation there. So the Jags had a decent amount of cap space going into the offseason. I feel like they extended Trevor Lawrence by that point, and a couple others. Let's see. Do they have it on Spot Track? I don't think they do, unfortunately. I think they just have free agent signings. I don't think they have extensions. But anyway, in terms of free agents going into 2025, the big contracts they gave out were to Patrick McCarry, bring him in over from the Ravens at offensive guard / center, like interior offensive lineman. 3 years, $37.5 million. They also brought over Jordan Lewis at cornerback from the Cowboys, 3 years, $30 million. Robert Hainsey at center, 3 years, $21 million over from the Bucks. Free safety Eric Murray from the Texans at 3 years, $19.5 million. Also had De'Ami Brown on a 1 year, $10 million deal from the Commanders. I know De'Ami Brown did not work out in Jacksonville whatsoever. I don't remember if he was a healthy scratch at any point, but he played maybe 5 to 6 games. It was not a lot. They lost a couple guys. So they lost Mitch Morse to retirement at center. They also lost Evan Ingram at tight end to the Broncos, Devin Duvernay as well, and Josh Reynolds at wide receiver for both of them. But not a ton of big losses at that point. So they're going in. It felt like a pretty similar team overall for the Jags. And it was a lot of people were looking at it as the Jags, they have a lot of really good talent. Their coaching was just really holding them back for the longest time, especially during Urban Meyer. And Doug Peterson really outstayed his welcome pretty quickly. So it was, there was a bit of optimism. I don't think people were expecting the Jags to be as good as they were, but it was still a decent amount of optimism. There, decent amount of optimism. There we go. So draft wise, it was an interesting one for the Jags as they had the 5th pick. They actually traded up to the 2nd pick with the Cleveland Browns. They sent their 5th pick, their 32nd pick or 36th pick in the 2nd round, and next also a 4th round pick, I think. So a first, a 2nd, 4th, and then the 2026 first round pick as well to the Browns in exchange for the 2nd overall pick and a 4th round selection and a 6th round selection. So it's a 4th round swap, an additional 6th round in 2025, but they gave the big one was giving up the 1st round pick next year. Well, now it's this year in like a minute or two. And so it was a lot. But they traded up to get Heisman winner and 2-way player Travis Hunter from Colorado, wide receiver and cornerback. And I didn't mind the move because Travis Hunter was really good in college. Like, that was no surprise. It was just the draft capital they gave up. So unfortunately, I'm just going to kind of spoil what happened with Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter unfortunately got injured in like week 9, I want to say. It was out for the rest of the season. And I'm not going to hold that against him. That's just injury luck, and that just happens sometimes. I think they played him more at cornerback than they did wide receiver. He wasn't super productive as a wide receiver. He had like one really big catch in like the game before he got injured. Like, he got injured in practice too, which was the worst part about it. But he never had like a major like wide receiver 1 type performance when he was playing in his rookie year. And defensively, he was solid. Like, he was better defensively than he was offensively. And I think that was kind of the consensus going in, was that he was a better cornerback than he was wide receiver. And so it was actually announced like either today or yesterday that Hunter is basically going to be a full-time cornerback and like very much part-time wide receiver. So it's like skewing more of a dual role and more of I think it's kind of more like what Deion Sanders played, where he was like primarily a cornerback, but he would occasionally play elsewhere as well. Though I think Hunter's going to be playing more than just like a couple plays here and there. Like, it's probably, my guess is like, he's like full-time cornerback and then like maybe 15% at wide receiver, something like that. But anyway, it's unfortunate that Hunter, like, he looked interesting. It's just that after he went down, the Jags offense got a lot better. And I'm not like directly correlating that to him, because part of the reason, I'll get to the trade deadline in a sec, or maybe not in a sec, but you know what I mean? But the Jags offense got a lot better and a lot more consistent, more so than anything else, in the back half of the season. But it'll be interesting to see how Hunter performs in year 2 with this offense, even if he's not going to be like a mainstay on there compared to the other ones. But anyway, other than that, Jags, they picked Bashal Tuden in the 4th round, running back out of Virginia Tech. I just love his name a ton. Outside of that, I feel like their draft class wasn't too like immediately impactful, just from the names that I'm looking at it. It's Caleb Ransow, cornerback out of Tulane in the 3rd, as well as Wyatt Millam, guard out of West Virginia from the 3rd. Jack Kaiser, linebacker in the 4th out of Notre Dame. And then some like 6th and 7th round picks. So it's interesting there. I'll see how they perform going into year 2 there. So for the preseason, because I'm just going to roll right into that, Jags went 0-2-1, losing to the Steelers, tying the Saints, and losing to the Dolphins. But again, it's preseason. But I always like highlighting them just because. So week 1 was against the Panthers, and this is a good start for them. They won 26-10. And you could tell early on that the defense for the Jags was actually going to be pretty good. Like, even more so than their offense. Like, I think by the end of this, their defense was, it was interesting. I think I'll just leave it there. But yeah, they win week 1. Week 2 was against the Bengals, though. And this was actually the game where Joe Burrow goes down with an injury. Also in week 1, there was like a weather delay in this game, where it was like for an hour. I forgot about that. Like rereading is like, oh yeah, that did happen. It was kind of weird. But yeah, week 2 was against the Bengals, and this is one where the defense did not play well. This is also the game where Joe Burrow went down with an injury, but Jake Browning actually led Bengals to a comeback win, which was like the one time he did a good thing in 2025. So yeah, the Jags would fall to 1-1 at this point. That loss was kind of embarrassing, but they bounced back. They would win a sloppy game against the Texans in week 3, winning 17-10. And first home win against Houston since 2017 that I'm reading here. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, the Jags had been pretty bad for a good while. Week 4 was against the 49ers. They would win that one 26-21. Parker Washington had a punt return touchdown in this game, and he kind of exploded out of nowhere. He was a 2023 sixth round pick, and I don't think he did too much in 2023, 2024, or even all right, no, I guess this was 2025. I'm just now fully thinking that it's 2026, but yeah. Like Parker Washington he had a really good season, all things considered, for Jacksonville, both as a receiver and as a return man. Like he was really good. This was also the game where Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh got into an argument at the when they were going for a handshake and had to be separated because I guess Saleh made a comment about the Jaguars and Cohen didn't take it the right way, and it was it was really funny going into the season. We didn't know too much about Liam Cohen. Most people didn't know much about Liam Cohen. Bucs fans probably know a little bit, but most people didn't know too much about Liam Cohen. And the first thing we obviously see of him in Jacksonville is his introductory press conference where he's going, Duval, doing the Duval chant, but doing it wrong. So we're thinking he's just kind of a nerdy, just kind of out there type of guy. But you watching him on the sidelines, dude gets heated. He is yelling constantly, just absolutely furious sometimes. So it's very different persona compared to what he was in that introductory press conference. It was pretty interesting though. So yeah, that was that. But after that, Jags 3-1 at that point. Then they go on a Monday night game against Kansas City and actually win. They beat the Chiefs. And this is one where late in the game, the Jags are on the 3-yard line essentially. And it's basically for the game winning touchdown. And Trevor Lawrence takes the snap, slips, he's on his back and getting about to get sacked, gets up, scrambles around and runs in for a touchdown. It was crazy. And that basically walked off the Chiefs at that point. They won 31-28. So the Jags, it was weird because they were winning games, but their offense was having problems, especially Brian Thomas Jr., who had, I think, 1,400 yards in his rookie season in 2024. He was a first-round pick, 7th overall or something like that, or maybe 9th overall. High draft pick, out of LSU, very highly touted, and he was not off to a good start in 2025, and he did not have a good season in 2025 as a whole. It was just something was just off. It was weird. I don't know what was going on with BTJ, but it was it was just odd. I don't even know, because he wasn't running routes, especially over the middle, with a lot of urgency. He dropped a lot of passes, dealt with a bit of injuries, but also got rocked a couple times on some crossing routes. It was just strange as a whole. And he got majorly eclipsed by Parker Washington and then someone I'll talk to in just a bit when we get to the trade deadline that they brought over from the Raiders. But so week 6 against the Seahawks was a 20-12 loss. And this was actually a BTJ touchdown, but this was nullified by Travis Hunter lining up offsides on offense, which is, that was not great. Week 7 against the Rams was in London, and this is one where it was the Jags were question marks around them essentially, as they got blown out by the Rams 35-7. They then bounced back against the Raiders, winning in overtime 30-29. This was also the game where Cam Little at the end of halftime set an NFL record in breaking Justin Tucker's record for longest field goal. Justin Tucker's was 36. Cam Little Justin Tucker's was a 66-yard field goal, not 36, 66-yard field goal. Cam Little's made a 68-yard field goal instead. That's what his was. And the Jags would win in overtime. They stopped. I think the Raiders tried to go for a 2-point conversion in overtime to try and win the game, but it was pass block there. And so after that I believe after this was the trade deadline. Hang on a minute. Let me double check and make sure. Because the Jags made a couple trades during the season. And so they made one actually like in middle of October or early October. And it was trading for Browns cornerback Greg Newsome. They sent away a cornerback who I'm blanking on at the moment. Tyson Campbell, that's who it is. It was I think it was basically just a 1-for-1 swap. I think there might have been a draft pick in there, but Newsome was a 2021 first round pick by the Browns out of Northwestern, and did not play all that well for Jacksonville. And that was I remember because they traded for him, and then it was the Seahawks game right after, and he got absolutely burnt by JSN for a touchdown. It was rough to say the least. But after the Raiders game, Liam Cohen and James Gladstone are looking at the Raiders and see Jacoby Myers on the team there, and are like, hey, we could use Jacoby Myers, because I'm pretty sure Jacoby Myers at that point was on the Raiders. Yeah, he was. So they traded, I think, just like a 4th-round pick for Myers. Let me check. It was 2026 4th and 6th-round picks. And it was a really good trade. Between Jacoby Myers and Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver trades at the trade deadline were kind of goated this past year. Because Jacoby Myers came in and just immediately became the wide receiver 1 for Jacksonville. He was spectacular. And he actually got extended in December. He had 3 years, $68 million extension or something like that. So handsomely rewarded there, and deservedly so, because Jacoby Myers has fit like a glove in Jacksonville. And it's good for them there. So anyway, week 10 against the Texans was a loss, as the Jags would fall 36-29. They actually led at one point 17-0. This was also a Davis Mills start, as Stroud was dealing with some kind of injury. I forget what it was. This is also, by this point, Travis Hunter, in between weeks here, was when, it was after week 9. This was when Travis Hunter went down with an LCL injury. That's what it was. And I'm 99% sure it was during practice. This was not a great week for Jacksonville there. They bounced back against the Chargers, though, just destroying them 35-6. It was wow. It was at this point, it was okay, Jacksonville could be something here. They just need to be a bit more consistent. And they won against Arizona. It was a lot closer than it should have been, as it went to overtime, but they would win in overtime 27-24. Then they would pummel the Titans 25-3 in week 13. Then they would pummel the Colts in week 14, though the Colts were dealing with their own stuff. This is actually the game where Daniel Jones tore his ACL, and I'll get to the Colts in a little bit. But this was in free fall mode for the Colts at this point. And the Jags won this one 36-19, and at that point took control of the AFC South, I'm pretty sure, because they were at that point 9-4. They then played the Jets after that, which is a nice little softball there in week 15, winning 48-20. And the Jags were kind of rolling at this point. They beat the Broncos, and this was a big matchup because the Broncos were really good at this point. They were, I think, the number 1 seed in the AFC at this point. Broncos finished as the number 1 seed in the AFC. But the Jags kind of took them down a little bit. They beat them 34-20, and honestly, the score didn't really do it justice. The Jags just completely wrecked the Broncos in this game, and I was I bought into the hype for the Jags at this point. I was full on. I think I had them going to the AFC Championship game. Did I have them going to the Super Bowl? My predictions, I don't remember. I had them going far at this point. I was I was really confident in the Jaguars. They then beat the Colts again in week 17, 23-17. And then capped off their season with a 41-7 victory over the hard luck Titans, who we'll get to later, cementing a very, very, very successful season, going 13-4 and making the playoffs. They would play host to the Buffalo Bills, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was away. I think it was at home. It was at home. They played the Bills in the wild card, and unfortunately for them, they would lose 27-24. It was just a game where it was neither team made too many big mistakes. Trevor Lawrence threw an interception late in the game, but it was pretty solid defensive battle for most of the game. And in the end, it was just the Bills were just played a bit more clean, and the Jags couldn't do it in the end. They gave up a pretty backbreaking touchdown drive late in the game when they had the lead. And it was one of those games where it's like both teams are good. One team was just played a little better. And unfortunately for the Jags, they were one and done after a really good season. But even still, this was an incredibly successful season for the Jaguars as they just completely. They were 4-13 the previous year and flipped it to 13-4. Like completely flipped around their record. The Liam Cohen looks like a really good hire. James Gladstone, jury's still out on him, I think. But Liam Cohen definitely looks like a good GM there. And Trevor Lawrence had one of his best seasons. Parker Washington and especially Jacoby Myers. Travis Etienne, who formerly known as ETN, but he has since corrected it to Etienne. He had a really nice bounce back season as well for the Jaguars. Like their run game was really nice between him and Bashal Tuten. It was and I think one other guy as well. But anyway, it was a really nice season for the Jags. Their long snapper Ross Matstick actually made first team All-Pro, and then outside linebacker Devin Lloyd, who was a 2022 first round pick by the Jags, made second team All-Pro. Both those guys also made the Pro Bowl. In terms of team and individual stats, it was team stats. Their offense was ranked 6th in points scored and 11th in yards gained. Their defense was 8th in points allowed and 11th in yards allowed. So pretty consistent on both sides. Like it felt like a very complete team by the time the playoffs happened, and then they lost. So yeah. Passing, it was all Trevor Lawrence. Nick Mullins, who was their backup quarterback they signed, played in 5 games, did not start any through a solid 3 passes. Did complete all 3 of them for 19 passes, but this was Trevor Lawrence, 17 games played, 17 games started, threw for 4,007 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. So nice year there for him. It was actually 5th in MVP voting and 4th in comeback player of the year voting. So really good bounce back season for Trevor Lawrence. It didn't feel like he was like a top 3 quarterback or maybe even top 5, but he's still very much an above average, definitely top 10 type of quarterback. And finally, it felt like he was starting to reach the heights that were promised when he came into the draft. In terms of rushing, it was Travis Etienne who led the team with 1,107 yards and 7 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence was actually second on the team with 359 yards, 9 touchdowns. Bashal Tuten was third with 307 yards and 5 touchdowns. Then a bunch of guys with double digits, so not much there. Receiving yards, it was Parker Washington who led the team with 847 and 5. BTJ had 707 yards, 2 touchdowns, so basically half of what he had in his rookie season. He did only play in 14 games. He was injured for a little bit, but it was still a major down year for BTJ nonetheless. Brenton Strange, tight end, was third with 540 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers, who only played in those 9 games, started 7. Still had 483 yards and 3 touchdowns for the team, and probably going to have a lot more in 2026. Travis Hunter, in 7 games played and only 4 games started at wide receiver, had 298 yards and a touchdown. So there's still some signs there, but it's we're not going to see an 1,000-yard season from Hunter, most likely. Travis Etienne also had 292 yards and 6 receiving touchdowns. So Etienne had, between rushing and receiving, he had 13 touchdowns there. De'Ami Brown had 227 yards and a touchdown on 14 games played. So that was not a very good signing there. Tim Patrick had 187 yards, 3 touchdowns though. So Lawrence was definitely spreading the ball around a lot this season. Though I'm curious what they're going to do at tight end. I don't know if Kenyon Sadiq, I guess they don't have their first round pick, so there's no way Kenyon Sadiq falls to them in the second round, but it'll be interesting to see what Jacksonville does at tight end. On the defensive side of the ball, it was combined tackle leader was Foyde Oluokun, who had 143, completely blew out the rest of the team for combined tackles. Andrew Wingard had 84. Oluokun's linebacker, Wingard's safety, Devin Lloyd, linebacker, had 81. Then solo tackles, it was Oluokun again, or Oluokun. He's not Oluokun, it's Foye Oluokun. There's no D in there. He had 69 solo tackles. Andrew Wingard had 45, and Monteric Brown, cornerback, had 43. I guess I could do tackles for loss, but I haven't done that before, so it's whatever. Josh Hines-Allen, defensive end, led the team with 8 sacks. Eric Armstead, defensive tackle, was second on the team with 5.5. And then Trayvon Walker, former first overall pick back in 2022 at defensive end, who also just got a big payday, had 3.5 sacks. Interceptions, it was Antonio Johnson, safety, with 5. Devin Lloyd, linebacker, also had 5. Had a 99-yard pick 6 as well, which is pretty cool. And then Jerry and Jones had 3 sacks. I guess I never did the full sack list. I'll go back to that in a sec. But interceptions, Jerry and Jones 3, Jordan Lewis at corner 2, Monteric Brown corner 2, Foye Luakon, linebacker 1, Eric Murray safety 1, Andrew Wingard safety 1, Greg Newsome cornerback 1, Ventrell Miller linebacker 1. Back to sacks real quick. Dennis Gardeck, linebacker, had 2.5. Antonio Johnson at safety had 2. Dwayne Smoot, defensive end, and BJ Green, defensive lineman, also had 2. Devin Lloyd, Foye had 1.5, and then Foye Luakon, Eric Murray, Devon Hamilton, and Austin Johnson had 1. Then Emmanuel Ogba and Danny Strigow had half a sack. Then finally, tackles for loss, or not tackles for loss, forced fumbles, because that's the other one that I did. Luakon and Ventrell Miller had 2, and then Eric Armstead, Dennis Gardeck, Eric Murray, Austin Johnson, Tyson Campbell, Branson Combs, and LaQuint Allen all had 1. Then in terms of free agency in 2026 for the Jaguars, not much, actually. They've done basically nothing in terms of signing players, at least. I don't think they've really made any trades either, if I remember correctly. Like, it's just not been much so far. They signed 2 players, and it was, one of them was a re-sign in Dennis Gardeck, re-signing him to a 2-year, $6.5 million deal at edge. The other was Chris Rodriguez, Washington Commanders running back, former 7th round pick back in 2023, I think, to a 2-year, $10 million deal because they need a new running back, as they lost a lot of guys in free, or a couple big guys at least. Big one was, one of the 2 big ones was Travis Etienne, who left for the Saints on a 4-year, $48 million deal there. They also lost Devin Lloyd to Carolina on a 3-year, $42 million deal. Greg Newsome also left in free agency to the Giants. De'Ami Brown went back to the Commanders. And then Andrew Wingard left to the Cardinals. So Jags free agency so far has not been the best. We'll see how they do. They also don't have their first round pick. They do have the second round pick 56, but no first round, as the 24th selection at the moment belongs to Cleveland. So, it was a good season. Off season though, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. But obviously the team played well. I like their coaching staff. We'll see how it goes going into 2026. And I need to speed up the off-season stuff. That's what I got to do faster. So we'll go to the Texans, who had an interesting season, to say the least. Some good, some bad. I'll say that. So free agency-wise, the Texans signed a lot, actually. Wow, they actually signed a ton. I'm looking at it right now. A lot of 1-year deals, like a ton of 1-year deals. Biggest one was Cam Robinson on 1 year, $12 million, bringing him over from the Vikings at tackle. They re-signed Mario Edwards to a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. Brought over Tremont Smith at corner from the Broncos, 2 years, $6.5 million. This is 2025. Brought over Nick Neiman at linebacker from the Chargers on a 2-year, $6 million deal. Sheldon Rankins on a 1-year deal at defensive line from the Bengals. Justin Watson on a 2-year deal at receiver from the Chiefs. Laken Tomlinson at guard, EJ Speed at linebacker, Nick Chubb at running back, Ronald Darby at cornerback, Bryson Berrios wide receiver, Casey Toohill defensive end, Jalen Mills at cornerback. A lot of basically all 1-year deals except for a couple here and there. So it's interesting there. I want to say they signed a couple big extensions. They didn't lose. Who did they lose? They lost Stephon Diggs to the Patriots. Outside of that, really nothing much like major. But receiver was an interesting question for them. And they did address it in the draft. So they didn't have their first round pick. which was because they traded to the Giants. It was that? Oh, this was when the Giants traded back up to get Jackson Dart. That's what it was. So yeah, the Texans had the 25th overall pick. The Giants traded up. They gave up a second round pick, so the 34th overall and the 99th overall pick in the third round. So they traded up to get Jackson Dart. The Texans trade back with 34. They take Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State. They take Ariantare Ursare, offensive tackle of Minnesota in second round as well. In the third round, they take Jalen Noel, also a wide receiver of Arizona State, which was eventually through that was part of the Laramie Tunsil trade, kind of, sort of. Then they also took Woody Marks, USC running back out of, in the fourth round. It was like USC running back out of USC, but no, that's not how that works. And then I think that was largely it. I think Luke Lakey, I feel like he did a little bit, like seventh round pick out of Iowa at tight end. But yeah, in terms of coaching staff, because they had a couple coaching changes. They had fired Bobby Slowick, their offense coordinator, and brought in Nick Caley, who still there as their offense coordinator, was the tight ends coach from the Rams for the past 2 years. So it was an interesting going in, thing going in, because it was like the Texans, their defense is obviously really good, and Stroud, had the good rookie season, but had a sophomore slump. So it was like, is he going to bounce back, or is it not going to get, is he going to keep trending in the wrong direction? And he kind of trended in the wrong direction, sort of. It was weird. Stroud had a weird season. So they go 2-1 in the preseason. They lose to the Vikings, then beat the Panthers and Lions. Week 1 was against the Vikings. They would lose this one 20-10. Wait, no, hang on. I'm rereading the preseason. Never mind. Week 1 was against the Rams. They lost this one 14-9. And it was, they put up 9 points. It was not very good. They also had Joe Mixon on the roster at running back, and he was out for the entire season with some kind of mysterious injury. Still have no idea what was going on there. So they ran with Nick Chubb and Woody Marks largely at running back, and it was very underwhelming. Because Woody Marks would just go down with an injury every game. It was really weird. Week 2 against the Buccaneers. This was on Monday Night Football. They would lose 20-19 in a very mediocre game. Week 3 against the Jaguars, they would lose 17-10. So starting out 0-3 was not very good. And they would bounce back though against the Titans, shutting out the Titans 26-0. So they got their first win there, and I forget at what point Stroud went down with an injury, because I know he did. Let me check and see. 1 second, because I want to make sure I know. Where can I just see his 2026 stats by games played? CJ Stroud. Hang on, I'm gonna pause the recording here. You guys won't know anything. Or this will be an instant skip, but I want to check and make sure when he went down. All right, I'm back. It was week 9. That's when it was. So we'll get it then in a sec. And he missed 3 games with a concussion. So where was I? I was on week 4 with the Titans. They won there. Week 5 was against the Ravens. They would win this one 44-10. This was the Cooper Rush start. It was not good for the Ravens at all. So Houston was bouncing back, though they ran into the Seahawks juggernaut and got wrecked 27-19. You could kind of tell at this point that the offense was solid-ish, though it had problems. It was the defense that was really good. And that defense would flex against the 49ers, winning 26-15 in week 8. Their bye was week 6 also. I forgot to mention the Jaguars bye, which was, hang on a minute, let me just quickly touch on that. Their bye was week 8, was the Jaguars. And so actually it was just on week 8 for the Texans. Week 9 against the Broncos, the Texans would lose 18-15, and this is where CJ Stroud goes down with a concussion. So Davis Mills gets a start against Jacksonville in week 10. And this is the one where Texans win 36-29. Davis Mills, it was like the Texans were doing nothing. And then they put up 26 unanswered in the fourth quarter. And like Davis Mills just like randomly turned into, Joe Montana. It was kind of crazy. And he didn't play as well next week against the Titans, but they still won because the Titans were terrible. They won 16-13. Then they won against the Bills somehow with Davis Mills. They won 23-19. It was this was this was a Thanksgiving game. I'm pretty sure. Was it? No, it couldn't have been. This was the week before Thanksgiving. Was it? It was a Thursday night video. Where was this? Hang on. It's like I feel like this was a Thanksgiving game, but I don't think it was. Maybe it was. I don't know. Because what day was it? It was November 20th. That doesn't sound right. I don't think that was. I don't know, but it had like it was Amazon Prime did it. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, whatnot. But yeah, this was Josh Allen got sacked 8 times in the game. It was a beatdown. Anyway, so CJ Stroud comes back. Texans beat the Colts at this point, 20-16. And they're kind of on a roll at this point. They beat the Chiefs 20-10. And I don't was this when Patrick Mahomes went down with an injury? That might have been the week after. Anyway, it was another one where the defense was playing really good. This is also a Sunday night game, so this was not the one where Patrick Mahomes went down with injury. This was just Sunday night beatdown for the Texans. Week 15 against the Cardinals was a 40-20 victory. So the Texans were kind of rolling. Then they played a close game actually against the Raiders in week 16, winning 23-21, but the Raiders should not have been this close. Week 17 against the Chargers, they would win 20-16. So they were on very much a roll. Then they would close out the season with a 38-30 victory over the Colts. So to finish the season after, getting off to a pretty dismal start, they would rattle off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins. I think did I count that right? Hang on, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, I did count that right. Yeah, rattling off 9 straight after starting the season 3-5 to end 12-5. They obviously did not clinch the division as the Jaguars were 13-4, but still, it was a very successful season there for the Texans. They would they would go into Pittsburgh to play the Steelers since it was 5 seed versus 4 seed and just demolish the Steelers 30-6. Basically, it was actually a decently close game. I talked about this last week. It was 7-6 at halftime, and then the defense just took over for the Texans. Stroud did look terrible in this game, and the defense was crazy. They were going ham. The following week, however, things did not go as well as it happened. The Stroud thing happened. It was not good. Stroud threw 4 interceptions this game, including a pick 6. The defense played as well as they could, but the Texans would fall 28-16 to the Patriots. It was legitimately one of the worst quarterback performances we've seen in a long time. And it started to raise questions about CJ Stroud because he had all things considered, he had kind of a mediocre season. And the offense as a whole was really streaky. And when you waste the performance that this defense had all season, it was not great, to say the least. It was not good. So like this Stroud thing for me is like they're not going to trade him. They're going to extend him unless like things go really bad in 2026. But it's definitely like he's not the second coming of Jesus that he was praised as after his rookie season. You know what I mean? There's a lot of question marks around Stroud, but there's no way the Texans trade him or move on from him early on. So anyway, in terms of stats and stuff and achievements, Will Anderson and Derek Stingley both made first team All Pros. Daniel Hunter made second team All Pro. Then Aziz Al-Shaair, Will Anderson, Nico Collins, Derek Stingley, Caden Bullock, and Kamari Lassiter all made the Pro Bowl. So it's interesting that Danielle Hunter did not make the Pro Bowl. But anyway, statistics-wise, the team offense was 13th in points scored and 18th in yards gained. Their defense was second in points allowed and first in yards allowed. So, yeah, you can kind of see how this team was divided up. CJ Stroud played in 14 games, started 14 as well, went 9-5 in those games, threw for 3,041 yards, 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Davis Mills played in 6 games, only started 3. In those 3 starts, he was 3-0. Threw for 915 yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, so he had a nice stretch there. Really helped the Texans out. In terms of rushing, it was Woody Marks who led the team with 703 and 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 506 and 3. Stroud, 209 and 1. Jawar Jordan, 193 and nothing. Then a lot of guys with double digits. Receiving, it was Nico Collins with 1,117 and 6. Dalton Schultz with 777 and 3. Jaden Higgins, 525 and 6. Xavier Hutchinson, 428, 3. Jalen Noel, 292 and 2. Christian Kirk also was there. He had 239 and 1. Woody Marks also had 208 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. There's that. So on and so forth. Defensively, it was Danielle Hunter, who led the team with 15 sacks. Will Anderson, 12 sacks. Derek Barnett, 5. Danico Autry, 3.5. Sheldon Rankins, 3. Henry To'o, 2.5. Tommy Togiai, what is your name? Folo Runso Fatu Kasi. Mario Edwards all had 1.5. Tim Settle with 1. Dylan Horton with a half sack there. Again, I'm going to try and keep speeding through this. Combined tackles, it was Aziz Al-Shaair, 103. Henry Toto, 95. Kamari Lassiter, 91. Kamari Lassiter, 62. Solo tackles, Aziz Al-Shaair, 48. Caden Bullock, 44. Interceptions, it was Kamari Lassiter, Caden Bullock, Jalen Petrie, and Derek Stingley, all with 4. Aziz Al-Shaair, 2. Elijah Huzzy with 1. Then forced fumbles, it was Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter with 3. And then Caden Bullock, Derek Stingley, Al-Shaair, MJ Stewart, Dylan Horton, Danico Autry, and Jamal Hill with 1. Now, in terms of 2026 free agency and the draft, the Texans have 2 second-round picks, one courtesy of the Commanders from the Laramie Tunsil trade. They also have an extra 4th-round pick because of it. They have a 3rd-round pick from the Giants, so they're picking 28th overall at the moment. So loaded up with a good number of picks so far. In terms of their free agency, though, the biggest contracts they gave out were Reed Blankenship, safety from the Eagles, $24.75 million over 3 years. Braden Smith, offensive lineman from the Colts, 2 years, $20 million. Wyatt Teller, guard from the Browns, 2 years, $16 million. They also traded away Titus Howard to the Browns for, a 3rd-round pick, I think? Something like that. So they're kind of reshaping their offensive line a little bit. They brought over Logan Hall from the Buccaneers, 2 years, $13.75. Foster Moreau, tight end, on 2 years. Jake Hummel, linebacker, 2 years. Dominique Robinson, edge rusher for a year. And Evan Brown, interior offensive lineman for a year. The guys they did lose, however, included Tim Settle, Christian Kirk, Christian Harris, Tommy Townsend, and Damon Clark. So not a ton of big losses, but it's the big question for the Texans really is CJ Stroud, and it's like, is he gonna be like his rookie season, or is it gonna be more like the recent seasons where it's bad, or it's been a lot worse essentially than his rookie season? So we shall see, because it has been is a little worrisome for the Colts, or not the Colts. Well, it's been worrisome for the Colts as well, but it's just because I'm typing Colts at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be worrisome for the Texans going forward if Stroud continues to be not as good as he was beforehand. So next up, we go to the Colts. That's why I said them earlier. And so for the Colts, there was a bit of tragedy, well, actually a big tragedy for them before the season started, as their longtime owner Jim Irsay passed away. So this is a season dedicated to him. And going into the offseason, Anthony Richardson was the quarterback of the future, in theory, in practice, it was not going as well. So they actually signed Daniel Jones, who had been released by the Giants, then picked up by the Vikings for like a hot minute, and brought him in basically on a 1-year prove-it deal and quarterback competition for Anthony Richardson. That was like one of the big stories for the Colts in the offseason in 2025. But besides the Daniel Jones signing, there was a lot of other stuff, actually. they did make a lot of moves. The biggest one was bringing in Cameron Bynum at safety over from the Vikings on a 4-year, $60 million contract. They also brought over Charvarius Ward on a 3-year, $54 million contract from the 49ers. I think, unfortunately, Ward dealt with some concussions, and I think is actually retired at this point due to those concussions and just like injuries as a whole. So that's very unfortunate there. But yeah, they also brought over Daniel Jones, obviously. Other than that, a couple re-signings, including Mo Alley Cox, like death taxes and Mo Alley Cox on a 1-year deal to the Colts again. So it's just kind of been that for a while. But as the big ones were Bynum, Ward, and Jones. And other than that, though, not too much in terms of free agency. Who'd they lose? They lost Will Fries at guard to the Vikings on a 5-year deal, $87.72 million. That was a big one. They also lost Dayo Odeyingbo to the Bears, Ryan Kelly to the Vikings as well. Other than that, a couple of minor pieces here and there. But it was interesting to like. I was certainly one of those who was going in as like, yeah, the Colts, they're not going to do anything this season. But yeah, I do like their first pick in the draft at least. And Tyler Warren, tight end at Penn State at 14 overall. That was a really good pick for them because they really badly needed a tight end, and he fit perfectly there. They picked JT Tuimoloau, defensive end out of Ohio State in the second round, and I think he had a pretty solid rookie season. Other than that, it was like Justin Whaley, cornerback in the third round, and they also picked Riley Leonard in the sixth round, Notre Dame quarterback, which is kind of neat. And I think he actually made a start like at the end of the season too, if I remember correctly. But I don't think there are any. They did bring over Lou Anarumo at defensive coordinator over from the Bengals after the Bengals fired him. But I think their offense was largely the same in terms of their coaching staff. They actually have Reggie Wayne as their wide receivers coach. That's cool. I didn't realize that. So, legendary Colts wide receiver. Yeah, he's been their wide receivers coach since 2022. Actually, that's kind of neat. But yeah, anyway. So preseason they go 1-2, lose to the Ravens and Packers, then beat the Bengals. And regular season, they start out the season. So there's obviously very little expectations. Like you can go back to my first podcast episode, my actual very first podcast episode, because I did the AFC preview to start. And besides the fact that I did not sound very good, I think, I was certainly not very high on the Colts at all. Since Daniel Jones had beaten out Anthony Richardson in practice, I think, and basically to earn the starting job as quarterback. I think Richardson also started the season on injured reserve or something like that, maybe. It was not good overall. At least it didn't seem good. And then week 1 came around. They hosted the Dolphins and just beat the crap out of them. Like, it was crazy. They would win 33-8. Daniel Jones was playing great. Jonathan Taylor was playing great. They didn't punt in the game. And then they played the Broncos the next week, and they didn't punt in that game. They win 29-28 there. I think it was like week 3 was when they first punted. They played they might have actually been week 4 because they won 41-20 against the Titans in week 3. So it was kind of crazy. Colts were it was going nuts. It was crazy. They slowed down a little bit in week 4 against the Rams. They made a couple mistakes here and there, and they would lose 20-27 there. But still, tangling with the Rams is it's impressive, to say the least. Then in week 5 against the Raiders, they would bounce back and win 40-6, just destroying them. They put up another good game against the Cardinals, winning 31-27. That game probably shouldn't have been as close as it was, but, it is what it is. Then in week 7, it was a 38-24 victory over the Chargers. And actually, that was week 7. Week 8 against the Titans was another victory, 38-14. So yeah, they were at that point through 8 weeks of the season, they were 7-1. They would lose against the Steelers 27-20. Again, another one that was close. They just is just a little off here and there. And they're like, at that point, Daniel Jones was playing really good. That Pittsburgh game was the first one where it was like there was a couple ones here and there that were or like a couple ones that was like, all right, he's human. He might not be having like there's moments here. Then the trade deadline happened and they made a massive trade for Sauce Gardner, superstar cornerback from the Jets, trading away 2 first-round picks in 2026 and 2027, as well as former second-round wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, trading him to the the Jets for Sauce Gardner. I don't remember if they got anything else in return. Hang on one second. I can probably figure that out. If I go here, no, it does not have a footnote there. It should have a footnote, but I guess not. But hang on. If I look up Sauce, actually it doesn't have hang on. Sauce Gardner. There he is. So I don't remember exactly what the trade details were in for what it was. No, it was just that was it. The Colts just got Sauce Gardner back. That's what it was. That's still kind of that's just a crazy trade. I'm not like it's just a lot. And unfortunately, what was worse though was that while the Colts would win in Germany in Week 10 against the Falcons in overtime, I think this was Sauce Gardner's first game he played, and he would pull a hamstring and be basically out for the rest of the season. And that kind of set the tone for how it would go after that. So they would have the Week 11 bye, 8-2, and then things fell apart. So they would lose to the Chiefs 23-20 in overtime, which was, it is what it is. But it was their rushing attack was like they couldn't do anything on the ground, and that was what like the flaws in the Colts offense would start to get exposed once you stopped Jonathan Taylor. And the Chiefs did it really well. Then in week 13, it was a loss against the Texans. Then in week 14, it was the loss against the Jags. They lost. The Texans was the 2016 loss. Jags was 36-19 loss, and this is the one where Daniel Jones goes down with torn Achilles, and that really killed the season. Since to pivot, they went with, of all guys, Phillip Rivers, which I still can't believe happened. So Phillip Rivers comes in to play the Seahawks of all teams. Actually plays them pretty well. The Colts would lose this one 18-16, but it was surprisingly close. They then would lose their next one 27-48 against the 49ers. Then they would lose again to the Jaguars 23-17. Then they would lose their season finale against the Texans 38-30. So they did not win a game after that overtime win in Germany in week 10. Going from 8-2 to 8-9, missing the playoffs. It was a tragic downfall for the Colts as they just collapsed completely. Like, obviously injuries hurt them entirely, but it still wasn't good either way. It was just complete and utter collapse. In terms of individual and statistics, though, just to move on here, Quentin Nelson at offensive guard made second team All-Pro, also made the Pro Bowl, as well as Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren. Their offense was 8th in points and 9th in yards. Defense was 21st in points and 23rd in yards. Let's see. They had a lot of guys throw passes for them. Actually, a couple of I guess Anthony Richardson threw 2 passes. Is actually listed. So because he was down with an injury. for pretty much the entire season, like only played in 2 games. And I think those were pretty early on. But Daniel Jones played in 13 games, started also those 13 games, went 8-5 in those starts, 3,101 passing yards, 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, led the league in passing success rate at 52.0. Just guess that's just a stat on Pro Football Reference. Phillip Rivers played in 3 games, went 0 for 3 in those starts, 544 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Riley Leonard, 5 games, 1 start, 1 loss. I think that was that Week 18 game. 415 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions overall. Rushing, it was Jonathan Taylor who led the team with 1,585 yards, led the league in rushing attempts at 323, led the league in touchdowns with 18, and led the league in first downs rushing with 84. So really good season for Jonathan Taylor. Next closest was Daniel Jones at 164 yards. So yeah, there was no one behind Jonathan Taylor in that backfield pretty much. Like there's a reason why he had 323 rushing attempts. Receiving wise, it was Alec Pierce who led the league, he did lead the league in yards per catch at 21.3. He had 1,003 yards on just 47 catches, 6 touchdowns as well. Tyler Warren had 817 yards, 4 touchdowns. Michael Pittman Jr. had 784 yards and 7 touchdowns. Josh Downs, 556 and 4. Jonathan Taylor, 378 and 2. A.D. Mitchell, before he got traded, had just 152 yards and no touchdowns, though has had more success with the Jets. That's where he's at. I just looked at something else. So Jonathan Taylor also led the league in combined touchdowns between, I guess, skill position players with 20, since he had 18 rushing, 2 receiving. Defensively, it was Laiatu Latu, former first-round pick, I think in 2024, with 8.5 sacks. Kwity Paye, also former first-round pick, I think he was 2021, with 4 sacks. DeForest Buckner, 4 sacks. Hang on a minute. Adetomiwa Adebawore. They all had 4 sacks. Neville Gallimore, 3.5. Tyquan Lewis, 3. Nick Cross, 2.5. Zaire Franklin, 2. Simpson Ebukam, also 2. Kenny Moore, 1.5. Then Cam Bynum, Mekhi Blackman, and Chris Wormley, all 1. Grover Stewart and Austin Ajiake, half a sack. Combined tackles, it was Zaire Franklin, 125. Nick Cross, 120. Jermaine Pratt, 101. Solo tackles, it was Nick Cross, 72. Zaire Franklin, 62. Jermaine Pratt, 57. Interceptions, it was Cam Bynum with 4, Laiatu Latu with 3. Wow, Latu had 3 interceptions. That's impressive. Mekhi Blackman, 2. Then Nick Cross, Jermaine Pratt, Kenny Moore, Grover Stewart, and Chris Lamons all had 1. Finally, forced fumbles, it was Kenny Moore with 2, and then Cam Bynum, Laiatu Latu, Nick Cross, Jermaine Pratt, Grover Stewart, Zaire Franklin, Segun Olby, and Mike Hilton all had 1. Now, free agency for the Colts in 2026 was very busy, had a lot of action to it, essentially, on both sides of the ball. Big one was that they re-signed Alec Pierce, who was like the top wide receiver on the market, signed him to a 4-year, $114 million contract, which was a lot. They also brought over Michael Clemens at edge from the Jets, and also Arden Key at edge from the Titans, on a 3-year and 2-year $1 million deals, $17 and $16 million. Brought over Akeem Davis-Gaither at linebacker, re-signed Mo Alley-Cox again. Re-signed Laquan Treadwell, who's still in the league, which is impressive. Brought over Cam Taylor-Britt from the Bengals. Also brought over Nick Westbrook-Akine from the Dolphins after he did basically nothing there. Brought over Derek Nandi from the Chiefs, and also Jarrett Tillery from the Chiefs. And also Jonathan Owens at safety from the Bears. They did lose a lot, though. They did also re-sign Daniel Jones, I think, to like a 2-year, $100 million contract or something. It was like a really big contract that they re-signed him to, or I guess more extension rather than re-sign. But still, it was a lot of money for him. They also traded away Michael Pittman to the Steelers for something I don't remember off the top of my head. It's just not listed here, but I know they traded him away to the Steelers. They lost Kwity Paye to the Raiders on a 3-year deal. Braden Smith to the Texans, who I just mentioned. They lost Nick Cross to the Commanders on a 2-year deal. I love that signing for the Commanders. They lost Neville Gallimore, defensive line to the Bears. Samson Ebicom to the Falcons. Rodney Thomas to the Seahawks. And then Segun Olubi to the Raiders as well. And a couple others, like very minor ones also. So the Colts do not have their first round pick in 2026 or 2027. So the Colts, their first pick is going to be pick 47 in the second round. They have a couple extra picks in the 7th round. Otherwise, not going to be a super involved draft for Indianapolis at the moment. Not any coaching changes or anything like that. So we'll see if the magic is still there and hopefully Daniel Jones can come back healthy. But again, it might be a bit of a shaky season for Indianapolis. I think they're also trying to shop Anthony Richardson at this point because I think they're ready to move on from him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there because the Colts are in a pretty interesting spot overall. And last but not least, the Tennessee Titans. And this is one I could probably go through in terms of the season at least. Like the actual games they played, can go through pretty quickly because it was not good. There's a reason why they have what pick do they have actually in 2026? I think it's the 4th overall pick. That's what it was. Yeah. Which I think they might go Jeremiah Love at pick 4. I think that would be pretty cool. But they probably, my guess is they're going to go offensive line, like Francis Maui-Noah. But I mean, maybe. I actually don't know how exactly good their offensive line is, but I feel like they should go offensive line. Just vibes with me that way. But I kind of like the Jeremiah Love pick for them there, but that's getting ahead of myself. In the offseason for Tennessee, they did spend a lot. They signed Dan Moore, tackle from the Steelers, 4 years, $82 million. And this was a move that was like clowned right away for a complete overpay. And it was kind of an overpay. They brought over Cody Barton from the Broncos on a 3-year deal, who actually played pretty well for them, which as a Commanders fan is a bit frustrating because he was on the Commanders a couple of years ago and he was awful there. But he, it's good in Tennessee, so good for Tennessee fans. They also recently changed their logo too. It's like hard to get used to because I don't know if I like their new logo. Their logo, I'll enunciate better. But they also signed Kevin Zeitler at guard from the Lions, Draymond Jones at edge from the Seahawks, Xavier Woods at safety from the Panthers, who I think just retired. I feel like he did. Maybe not. I might be thinking of someone else, but I feel like he did. They re-signed Sebastian Joseph at defensive line. They also brought over Tyler Lockett, who I'm pretty sure he retired. I feel like he did. Brought him over from the Seahawks on a 1-year deal. Also Van Jefferson, Quandre Diggs. Don't know why they have Quandre Diggs listed twice on here because they have one of them where he's listed as safety and then another where he's listed as strong safety. So I don't know what's going on there. So just sure, you do you, Spot Track. A couple other ones, like Tim Boyle for some reason, Joey Sly, Johnny Hecker, James Prochet. A lot of smaller signings as well. In terms of guys they lost, biggest one I guess was Harold Landry, because he went and played pretty well in New England with Mike Vrabel. They also lost Nick Westbrook-Akine, who would randomly catch like 6 touchdowns in like 3 games for them, and then just do nothing after that. But other than that, not much. There was everyone kind of expected this team to not be very good, as they had the number 1 overall pick and very obviously went with Cam Ward. It was not surprising at all. So Cam Ward, number 1 overall out of Miami, at quarterback. Otherwise, let's see. They did select Chimere Dike, wide receiver out of Florida, who had a couple of nice plays here and there. Also, Alec Iamaner, wide receiver out of Stanford, who I was actually pretty high on going into the season, who had a okay-ish type of season. Outside of that, not too much. So Brian Callahan was still the head coach at this point. Did they fire their GM? I forget. No, because it was Mike Bergonzi. It was his first year in 2025. Yeah. So yeah, they weren't firing him. But Yeah, so preseason wise, actually, how did they do the preseason? They actually went 2-1 in the preseason. That's kind of funny. So they lost the Bucks, then beat the Falcons and the Vikings. Obviously, his preseason means nothing, but it's funny given that the regular season. So they start out losing to the Broncos, 20-12. Then they lose to the Rams, 33-19. Then lose to the Colts, 41-20. Then lose to the Texans, getting shut out 20-6 or 26-0. And at that point, Brian Callahan was fired. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, he was fired after that. Actually, I thought he was fired after that loss, but no, he actually the Titans would win actually, beating the Cardinals 22-21. But this is the one where Amari DiMercato fumbles the ball after he runs for like 70 yards and he's gonna have a touchdown, but he fumbles the ball on the 1 yard line. Pulls it Sean Jackson. Yeah, that was bad. And the Titans would come back and win, get their first win for Cam Ward, and then Brian Callahan got fired, which was deserved because he was a terrible head coach. The Titans then lost. I think it was Mike McCoy was an interim head coach. Titans then lost to the Raiders 20-10, which is funny because the Raiders are actually going to pick first overall in 2026. They then lost to the Patriots and their old head coach, Mike Vrabel, 31-13. They then lost to the Colts 38-14. They then lost to the Chargers 27-20. They had their bye in week 10. Then lost to the Texans 16-13. Then the Seahawks 30-24, which is impressive that they put 24 up against the Seahawks of all teams. They then lost to the Jags 25-3. They then beat the Browns actually 31-29. I think by that point Shadur Sanders was starting. They then lost to the 49ers 37-24. They then beat the Chiefs actually, but this I think was a Chris Oladokun start, and he was awful. But they won 26-9 actually. That was my cue of thinking that was an Oladokun start because no way Mahomes is putting up 9 points against the Titans in 2025. And yeah, it was, it was what it was. They lost 34-26 against the Saints, and then the Jags 41-7, cementing a 3-14 record and the 4th overall pick. So obviously not a very good season at all. Like Cam Ward definitely showed some flashes here and there. Like he would certainly make some plays, but it's definitely, he needs some more time to develop. And hopefully now with their new head coach and Robert Saleh and also Brian, why am I blanking on your last name? Dable. There's so many Brians in the NFL, but yeah, Brian Dable, Robert Saleh, and the baldest head coaching roster, or not head coaching, just the baldest coaching roster of all time. Like if you haven't seen the meme or even just the lineup that has been made into a meme of the Titans coaching roster that has like 9 different guys that are all bald on their team. It's just kind of funny. But yeah, I like that staff a lot more than I do the Brian Callahan staff. I'll just say that. So in terms of individual and team accolades, Jeffrey Simmons made first team All-Pro at defensive tackle, and then Chimere Dike made first team All-Pro at punt returner. Both of them also made the Pro Bowl for those roles. Stat-wise, the team was 30th. Their offense was 30th in points scored and 31st in yards. Their defense was 28th in points allowed and 21st in yards allowed. So yeah, you can see why they went 30-14. Yeah, it was bad. So Cam Ward played all 17 games and started all of them. Threw for 3,169 yards, 15 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. Also took the most sacks in the NFL at 55. So yeah, the 7 interceptions is actually pretty nice. But I feel like that does, the 15 touchdowns and whatnot. It's like he makes me think he's not being super aggressive with the throws, but still 7 interceptions, not bad for your rookie season. So there's that. Rushing, it was Tony Pollard who led the team with 1,082. And that's why, I would be interesting to see Jeremiah Love go to the Titans. But they do have a nice little running back tandem of Pollard and Tyjae Spears, who did only have 282 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pollard had 5 touchdowns. But it would be interesting to see Jeremiah Love there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go elsewhere as well. Cam Ward also had 159 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And outside of that, it was basically nothing. Receiving, it was Chico Okonkwo, who led the team with 560 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alec Ironmaner had 515 and 4. Chimere Dike, 423 and 4. Gunnar Helm, 357 and 2. Van Jefferson, 350 and 1. Calvin Ridley, I forgot was on the team, to be honest, 303 and no touchdowns. Tajay Spears actually had 264 yards receiving. Tony Pollard 206, so on and so forth. Tyler Lockett only had 70 yards. So unfortunately, an end to his career there, but it is what it is. I'm 99% sure Lockett retired. And so defensively, it was Jeffrey Simmons, who led the team in sacks with 11, which is really impressive for a defensive tackle. Jihad Ward had 5. Draymond Jones, 4.5. Jalen Harrell, also 4.5. Arden Key, 4. Tavondre Sweat, who's been traded in the offseason for Jermaine Johnson from the Jets, had 2 sacks. Sebastian Joseph Day, also 2 sacks. Truman Jones, 1.5. Cody Barton, 1. Cedric Gray, Amani Hooker, Xavier Woods, Kevin Winston, Roger McCreary, James Williams, also 1. And then James Lynch, half a sack. Combined tackles, it was Cedric Gray with 164. Wow, that's a lot of combined tackles. Cody Barton was next closest, and Amani Hooker also same with 81. So that's like, wow, Cedric Gray. That's crazy. Solo tackles, it was also Cedric Gray with 97. Next closest was Amani Hooker with 58. And then Jeffrey Simmons with 39. Daryl Baker also 39. Interceptions, it was Cody Barton with 3, Xavier Woods 2, Roger McCreary 1, and that was it. And then forced fumbles, there it is. Jeffrey Simmons 3, and then Marcus Harris, Jalen Harrell, Kimon Hall, and CJ Ravenel all had 1. And now finally for the offseason for the Titans in 2026. If I can find it there. Yeah, so they did spend a good bit. They had a lot of money to spend, and spend it they did. Biggest contract monetarily was for Wan'Dale Robinson, Giants wide receiver, on a 4-year, $70 million contract, which I am okay on that one. I'm not a huge Wan'Dale Robinson fan, but they do. I like them getting a wide receiver at least, even if you have to overpay a little bit, in my opinion. They also brought over John Franklin Myers at defensive line from the Broncos on a 3-year, $63 million deal. I like this a lot. I think Franklin Myers is really good. He's very underrated, so I like that there. They brought over Alontae Taylor at cornerback from the Saints, 3 years, $58 million. I don't know as much about Alontae Taylor. Alontae Taylor. I don't know as much about him, but I don't mind the signing. They need a lot of help at cornerback, which is also why they got Cordell Flott from the Giants, 3 years, $45 million. Who I think he was okay on the Giants, but he's Dable guy, was coached under Dable, even if Dable was an offensive guy. But Titans signed a lot of Giants guys, including Daniel Bellinger at tight end, 3 years, $24 million, which I don't mind Bellinger. I think a lot of people are more negative on him than I am. So I don't mind that signing too much. They also brought over Mitch Trubisky, which I like, as a mentor for Cam Ward. I like that. They brought over Jake Martin at pass rusher. I think he's listed as a linebacker, but he's more of like an edge rusher from the Commanders. It was a nice rotational piece in Washington. Other than that, Jordan Elliott, Joshua Williams, Austin Schlottman, Tommy Townsend, Tony Adams, Joey Sly, Morgan Cox, Julius Chestnut, a lot of smaller ones as well. Brought over KJ Osborne too, Michael Carter as well. Also, Hendon Hooker is still in the league, which is interesting. So a lot of signings there. They did lose a couple big pieces, mainly Chigo Okonkwo, who went over to the Commanders, who I love that signing. 3 years, $27 million there. Now, so lost Arden Key and Sebastian Joseph Day to the Colts and Steelers, respectively. And also lost Van Jefferson, also to the Commanders. Lloyd Cushenberry to the Bills. Kyer Elam as well. When was Kyer Elam on the Titans? I don't remember that. Anyway, yeah, I don't mind the Titans offseason. They lost a couple pieces, but they signed a lot more. They have the 4th overall pick, and also the 35th overall pick. So they got a lot of room to work with. I like their coaching staff significantly more than the 2025 coaching staff. So while I don't think the Titans are, like instant playoff contenders or whatnot, I like where they're at now compared to a lot of other teams in the league. I think their future is pretty good, even if like maybe 2026 might not be, great. Potential, probably not. Maybe, who knows? But like 2027 could be pretty good. So just keep an eye out there. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode. I covered all 4 of the AFC South teams. So tomorrow will be another episode. I'm probably just going to talk a little bit about like the Mario Galaxy movie and Mall Shadow Lord, just stuff I'm watching lately, and just kind of vibing a little bit, shooting the breeze even more so than I do before, and just kind of talking about stuff I like, because I love watching the Mario Galaxy movie. That movie was so much fun. And Mall Shadow Lord has also been great. So just kind of talking about pop culture stuff, taking a break from sports slightly on this podcast. Next Tuesday will be another baseball recap, as baseball season has been incredibly fun so far. And I'm going to do more of that. Then probably like next Friday or whatever. Maybe not next Friday. There might just be one episode next week, depending on how I'm feeling. I'm going up to see a friend taking a trip. I won't say where, just for personal reasons. But I will not be around for a bit this weekend, or this next weekend, I guess. So probably not going to be an episode next weekend. So just be prepared for that. I might change my mind depending on how I'm feeling, but we'll see what happens. But for now, though, thank you very much for listening.